Let's get this started. Happy Saturday afternoon. It's NutBallCop once again. Nostrovia, uh, whole bunch of stuff going on. It's absolutely crazy. Um, let's start where we need to start. Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche made a conscious decision to violate a law passed by Congress. I went through and I reread the statute and I reviewed the statute. Uh, through a couple of experts on YouTube, lawyers, and reviewing the text, analyzing it with ChatGTP. And there's a hard deadline to this. It was very explicit what they had to release. Um, if you look at the video I put up in notes, 95-page PDF, 94 pages are 100% blacked out, redacted. Okay. This is the biggest non-release of all time. So this is a cover-up to cover up another cover up wrapped in another cover up. Is that cover up cubed? Uncertain. What's getting really disturbing is they're doubling down. Uh, they are trying to claim that, hey, this is all just political lawfare and um, there's no substance to the Epstein files, even though, he was arrested, Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison. And, none of this is attached to anybody in Trump's, well, attached to Trump himself, and then attached to anybody in Trump's orbit. But the reality and the documented connections are already out there. That's I just threw up semi sarcastical, but the data table's real. If you run the JSON, it works. I did everybody who's convicted of felonies in the Trump Epstein orbit, and it's pretty freaking horrible. The new twist to this is, Bezos wanted something out of Trump. Everything through Trump is transactional. It is a dirty game of quid pro quo. Um, so when they capitulated to Dear Leader Porn Star Humper, Amazon agreed to make a fluffy documentary about Melania Trump. The problem is the guy who's directed and produced the movie for Amazon MGM, the fact that Amazon and MGM are in the same tag, I'm a huge movie fan. I've talked about that before. MGM is a great classic studio. The fact it's associated with Amazon, especially on a project like this, is just repulsive. But this Brett Ratner has specifically been accused of sexual inappropriateness, sexual harassment, other things. According to two sources I located, the Los Angeles Times and Variety magazine. Variety calls it, quote, accused of sexual harassment or misconduct by 6 women. Okay, so Brett Ratner, the documentary director for Melania, is just another degenerate. Just another rapey degenerate. Okay. I saw a meme put up earlier, and that's also on my notes. I had to fact check it. The the account I took it from, it wasn't a confidence problem with that account, but given how easy it is to um, falsify information in a meme on the internet and how quickly it spreads, I always double check the story, find a related article on a reputable news site, Reuters, Los Angeles Times, Texas Tribune, ABC, that sort of thing. And I guess Brett Ratner's buddy and also a friend and associate of Jeffrey Epstein is a French dude named Jean-Luc Brunel. Jean-Luc Brunel ran a French modeling company that involved minors. Little girls. See the pattern here? Everybody in this orbit is a sex offender at some level. He's been widely described, and the sources are ABC News and Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is citing several other news articles appropriately. So I'll call it two sources plus. He's widely described as an Epstein associate, this John-Luc Bernal. John-Luc Bernal is a disgusting little pervert, a child rapist and sex trafficker who hung himself in La Santé prison in France after being arrested on a boatload of charges, all involving deviant sexual criminality. See the pattern? It's strange that an unusually high number of people have moved into Trump's professional, social, and political searches, has been incredibly accused, charged, convicted, and investigated for serious crimes. That includes everything from financial fraud to sex trafficking, trafficking adjacent charges, money laundering, sexual misconduct, almost pervasively, almost nonstop. This is a pattern. This is not speculation. So when you see, you go through and I've had a tab open to that document release leaf on the DOJ's website, and um, they almost took down as much as they posted, and what they posted was almost completely redacted unless it was already public. You release the most a PDF with a title in the PDF of masseuses. Okay, these were the teenage girls that were hired at Jeff Dean's place and parties to give massages to grown ass men. Now, as one who definitely likes massages because I have a bad back and I have injuries, I'm very respectful to the masseuses when I get them, especially when I'm traveling. I tend to get massages because, like, I can't do a whole week in Vegas with my back locking up. So I'll go to the spa and I'll get an expensive massage. I'm always respectful. I am nice. I don't make any inappropriate jokes. I am there specifically for a massage because I have massive bodily injuries and long-term medical problems, and it does make me feel better when I'm traveling. I can safely say I have only gotten massages from adult women. You know, I would absolutely, if I saw a young woman, even one of the just looked too young to me, I would ask her to leave and find somebody else. Just would not be in that situation. But so they released this PDF. It's labeled masseuses, 7 pages long. 100% of the lines are 100% redacted. Just blank ink on a page. So how did they follow the law? They didn't, and they willfully didn't. And what scares me is we don't have the Supreme Court we did in the early 70s that was very studiously knocking Spiro Agnew and Richard Nixon's dick in the dirt left and right. There were rules. Even presidents and vice presidents have to follow them. I don't see that with this court. Because if this was the Nixon era court, they'd be told to release it and release it now, or you'd be facing contempt of court and arrest. And once you got arrested, you'd be immediately impeached. Speaking of impeachment, those have already not just been brought up, the bill is being written to impeach Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche for willful violation of the law. Now, what I can't get over is the sitting attorney general of the United States isn't doing this for political reasons per se, like the way Mitchell did it in the Nixon era. This is an ideological front. And the ideological front isn't to protect political criminals at the first order. It's to protect pedophiles, child rapists. What especially irritates me to no end is the horseshit I've had to listen to for the last decade about your groomers bullshit. That's why I'm never like saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is a good person or somebody we should, realign with. No. Like the idiots in the Democratic Party said, let's get Marjorie Taylor Greene as a Democrat. And you wonder why I don't like the Democrats? The last person you need in your political party is somebody who's attested to lying and being racist on a nonstop basis for empty political purposes, owning the libs. No, you do not need to take her into your tent. That's absurd. The amount of people in the orbit that are just complete degenerate scumbags is overwhelming. Remember, 2 people have died in prison in Trump's orbit awaiting child sex trafficking charges. After he was convicted 30 plus times of, for business and banking fraud, insurance fraud, mortgage fraud, whatever the list of charges were, 30 convictions. And you have Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche prostrate to serve the pedophile king. In many minds, like this crazy YouTube short I saw this morning, the God King. This guy's got his Jesus is King trucker hat and his American flag and Jesus t-shirt, telling us that thank God Trump is here, but we're still all going to die. We need 95,000 guns apiece. You can't have enough ammo. You can't hate your neighbors enough. Well, if Trump is your God King here to rescue you, why is the apocalypse still coming? Why do you still believe the rapture is coming? You are so incongruent. This John-Luc Bernal, just like Trump, was accused of raping women and molesting children. The entire sphere. Oh, including, did you see the meme? I checked that one too. That was real. What was it? Maples, his first wife, about the 14-year-old girl at the party. Do not let your daughter near any of these men at this party, including my husband. Now that verified when I checked it. It's just so gross. I'm never mind the criminality. It's personally repulsive to me that you have grown ass men who cannot have a functional relationship with an adult woman. And if your fucking little girl's behind your wife's back, like seemingly a long list of men have done in this orbit, in this sphere of influence, this is so screwed up. I don't know. I don't know what the hell we're doing. Groomer, 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 groomer. We've heard that, what, 6 million times? You have a whole list of groomers here. News article after news article after news article. Groomer, 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 groomer. We found your groomers. What did we get? Blacked out pages. And a documentary about the first lady, knee deep in this corruption. The only good news about Millennia is $ Millennia, the meme coin, has fallen 99%. Trump has fallen like 82 or something like that. They've totally crashed out. They're meaningless and worthless as they always were. Crypto's a goddamn scam. Okay. I like the leisure properties for ownership tracking, but that has nothing to do with the gambling and shit that's going on with you know, stupid cartoon monkeys and digital coins that aren't even real. Um yeah, and remember there's a whole list of people like in my research this morning, this was reported on by the Washington Post years ago. This was 6 years ago. The Miami Herald and the Washington reported that Nadia Marcinkova was one of the people who was a co-conspirator with Jeffrey Epstein, many other men, and Ghislaine Maxwell. She was one of the people that were just let go by the Palm Beach County prosecutor. So we're talking about decades of corruption, decades of non-prosecution, decades of get out of jail free cards. When they were told the gig is up, release the files, they handed you blacked out pages. I swear to Christ, if I hear somebody say at a party the good Christian moral values, I'm going to turn around and just go, fuck you. Because Christians and Christian nationalists put dear leader porn star Humper into office. Oh, and it's porn star Humper squared now. I learned this just a couple of days ago. He did bang Stormy Daniels, and he's got a thing for blondes, obviously, because he thinks every woman that looks like his daughter he should have sex with. That's so fucked up. Disgusting. Um, he also tried to hook up with Jessica Drake, totally freaky porn star and sex educator and model and everything else. Another hot blonde. Lake Tahoe golf charity event. He invites her back up to his room. She brings two friends because she didn't feel comfortable. The hooker's smart. Don't get into situations with Johns when you're not sure of your own safety. Okay. So since the other girls were there, other women were there, um, he didn't bust a move right there, but he said, "Hey, if you fly here with me, I'll give you $10,000." And what do you think the $10,000 was for? You're offering $10,000 to one of the most famous porn stars at the time. Now, these guys have such great moral values. Porn stars are at their charity events. Porn stars are at their charity events. They can offer them $10,000, but people have to be the victims of identity theft when they go to these bullshit age verification brokers for porn sites now. Because Texas, not the United States, not Congress, because Texas passed an anti-porn law. People in Michigan, California, and Vermont have to risk identity theft to see adult content. And if they can do it to adult content, what else could they do it to? Because it actually doesn't stop the consumption of porn at all. It just puts people more at risk, and that's their point. They want to put you at risk of identity theft to punish you for looking at boobies. Because their definition of porn is quite broad, and it's been quite broad since fucking Anita Bryant in the 80s. That woman was such an asshole. She lost all her endorsement, sponsorship, and advertising. And she was a really popular ad gal. She was the face of Florida orange juice for years. Okay. Everybody fired her. She was that much of an anti queer folk zealot. Even Republicans in office were starting to shy away from her because she was the first one to go absolute batshit crazy in public, like on a nationwide scale. Okay. Which is funny because, she knew Rock Hudson, who was gay, who died of AIDS. I'm sure when she worked in Hollywood, she knew other gay men, but she was vehemently anti queer, like wanting to take away their citizenship, wanting to take away their civil rights. Uh, Complete basket case. She's the exemplar of what they're doing today against now trans folks. Okay. So I got my list here. All right. I talked that, yeah, impeachments are coming for Bundy and Blanche, most definitely. I think they've officially pissed off several dozen Republicans, and that's enough to side with the Democrats. You've got an easy impeachment vote. Okay. And once you lose one, then you're going to get, like you saw with Dan Bongino, the conspiracy theorist who was put as deputy director of FBI. He should have never been there. He's a security risk. He's unqualified. He's a security risk, and he's an asshole. Okay. Once the first one goes, whether it's Blanche or Bondi, um, people are going to start running. Um, and we're not talking like one or two people. You're going to see a lot of people that were referred by Trump. They don't want the rest of their lives screwed up. They're going to finally see the writing on the wall and realize, whew, I hitched my wagon to the absolute worst kind of person that I could have. And they're going to bail. Um, First, I thought the impeachment things were just, hey, we're going to think about impeachment and explore our legal options, which I think was like the first hour or so. But then later on, it was like, no, we're writing the bill. We're gonna write up the charges. Now, what scares me is Al Green put in impeachment against Trump, which is totally valid for the reasons he brought it up. They should at least have held a trial. 75 Democrats, 74 Democrats voted against it, which, again, I really don't like the nationalists who took the Republican Party hostage, but I see dangers in the Democratic Party because they keep doing stupid shit like this. When you have an opportunity to correct a wrong, take that opportunity. Okay. And once you get in power, you're going to start firing your own people. Chuck Schumer has to go. Oh, the asshole who just got the pardon in Texas, him and his wife were taking bribery from a cartel linked bank in Mexico and the worst state owned organization in the world in Azerbaijan. Yeah, he needs to be expelled from Congress. He was one of the people who voted against the impeachment, but he's not the problem there. The problem is 75 people did. Um, and in addition to a lot of the appointments, and even probably some cabinet level appointments, uh, are a couple of them are going to get impeached. Then you're going to have a mass run out the door. But what's the interesting parallel here is, um, first it was Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm quitting Congress. Okay. Then an absolute bombshell happened. What, about 10 days ago? Trump stabbed Elsie Stefanik from New York, the House member, right in the back. If I hate using the Hitler analogy with Trump because he's not Hitler. He's more Slobodan Milosevic. Um, Ruth Ben-Ghiet says Silvio Berlusconi from Italy. That totally makes sense, and she's the expert, so go with her expert opinion. But I still see so much of Trump in Slobodan Milosevic. If Trump was Hitler, then Elsie Stefanik was Goebbels. And Trump just went right in the back. 10-inch blade right between the shoulder blades. Fuck you, bitch. You're running for governor? He immediately stood up and stabbed Stefanik in the back, endorsed somebody else. Stefanik just out of the blue goes, I'm no longer running for governor and I'm resigning from Congress. What? Okay, if you don't know, Elsie Stefanik is the fucking pit bull for Trump in the House. If somebody needs to bark, it's usually her. She gave up her run for the governor because she knows that's the kind of grip dear leader has on the party. Whoever he says get elected, he endorses, they will get elected. She knows that. Okay. Now, this should be a wake-up call to Republicans who still vote, or Republicans looking to do something with their own party. Hey, I'm just glad I'm a nonpartisan independent. You know what I mean? But if you are a Republican and you're concerned, you should realize is your vote does not matter. The primaries and the final election is decided by one person and one person only. Dear leader, porn star helper. Stormy Daniels and Jessica Drake. Well, he tried with Jessica Drake. She said no. It's bad when the hooker turns you down. But Stefanik bails. Then the crypto queen, Loomis, from Wyoming? I think it's Wyoming. She's quitting too. All the bluster and the bullshit around crypto, about Trump's meme coin, about the $ Libra in Argentina, President Milei of Argentina's meme coin, which also crashed, by the way, because it was a rug pull. It was designed as a rug pull. Okay. Oh, by the way, I told you $ millennial crashed. $ Libra. Go watch the CopyZilla on YouTube video on this. $ Libra was set up by the guys who set up Millennia. $ Millennia. Same groups, two different meme coins, same digital GUIDs on the bottom of the ledgers. It's corruption after corruption after corruption, cover up after cover up after cover up after cover up. That's what we're dealing with. So yeah, the crypto queen of Congress. Okay. Loves seeing young men destroyed by gambling and empty investing. And empty investing is gambling. Okay. I've told you this before. I'll say it again. If you're buying Bitcoins, you're the idiots that were buying pet rocks in the 70s. Beanie Babies. Even some of my friends who I liked and even loved very much as friends, had a couple of them got caught up in the baseball card bullshit of the mid 90s, late 90s. Everybody was buying boxes of sealed, wrapped baseball cards, hoping that one player's card 10 years from now would be worth $100,000. And I'm like, you guys don't understand oversaturation of the market, do you? Now they're just printing more baseball cards because you're all buying them. That's dispersing the market. It's watering down the market. Cards won't be worth what they were when they only issued a couple hundred or a couple of thousands of things. Now they're issuing millions of boxes. The cards aren't going to be worth what you think they are going to be worth. You may have some value, collectability. And that's another thing. Collectibles aren't gambling, but they're full of fraud. Like the FBI report years ago said like 80% of all the memorabilia in the stores is fake. And one of the baseball players, one of the famous pitchers, I forget which one, his son used to go around to the baseball events, the collectibles events, and find his dad's fake signature and just throw the baseball right in the ground right in front of him. And he was always have somebody taping. And he was going, why are you selling fake merch with my dad's fake signature? So yeah, crypto fraud queen leaves after Goebbels, after the insane person who couldn't wait to show her animus, racism, and xenophobia at every turn. Hate was her message. I love Jesus Christ, but I hate your fucking guts. Remember her thing? You lie! Screaming at the president of the United States. And then the Democrats not having the balls to back up Al Green when he stood up and started yelling at Trump during his message. Nothing ever happened to those two idiots for standing up and screaming at Obama. Democrats literally turned their back on Al Green when he stood up and confronted Trump during his speech. Okay. Should he have been shown out the door by the sergeant at arms when he did it? Yeah, actually, he should have. He broke Robert's Rule of Orders, and the parliamentarians would rule that he's out of order. So the sergeant at arms can remove him. Okay. But the fact is, post facto, the Democrats literally turning their backs on him. That's what makes me worried about Democrats. When I see Democrats, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, I see weak need people. That's why I keep saying the last strong Democrat in America was Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ. And I'm wondering, because I was watching this compilation clip somebody had put up, and it was Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, Right Wing Turd A, Right Wing Turd B podcast, and they're all talking about the way Dear Leader responded to the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. None of it. I mean, it's funny. It took that, just being an asshole on overtime. Okay. And I talked about the bigger sense of it. It was disgusting, like dismissal of crime victims overall. It was just stupid at face value. But for the right wing, now suddenly the Rob Reiner tweet and then follow up comments, when he didn't double down, he didn't triple down, he quadrupled down. Now you get an entire panel 4 for 4 on Fox News going, that was ungentlemanly, that was uncalled for, that was beneath the office of the president, questioning things now. And I'm like, it's so weird that, considering how he has been a bully, a mean bully, jerk, confrontive asshole to so many people, especially women. It was the tweet and the follow-ups about Rob Reiner's and his wife's murder that set everybody back on their heels. Now, was it a psychological trigger? Obviously, yes. But why did it have to be this high up on the assholedom scale for you to react like you're a goddamn human being? I spoke about this before. Like, even when people got dropped, the gangsters got dropped back in the day, we didn't celebrate it. I mean, violence is violence. None of it is good. Okay. We're trying to like minimize violence in society. Okay. That's why I didn't poke fun. I made critical comments about Kirk's death. One, it's just a gang on gang murder. It's not an assassination. It was a horrible, violent thing. And I'm worried about the mental health of the kids who had to see it live, because seeing the video is disgusting enough. And I've seen people who have been shot and stabbed before. That was bad. And I wasn't there smelling, feeling, experiencing it firsthand. And I still had a visceral reaction to that. I've called out the violence as bad no matter what happens. Why did it take this level of what the fuck for people to back off and go, okay, we're not dealing with somebody who functions as a normal person, never mind as a president? No, I'm not saying it opened anybody's eyes. Don't misinterpret that. What I am saying is they understood there was a level of reprehensible conduct by Dear Leader. They finally recognized it for the first time. Okay. And going back to what I said a few minutes ago, I think a lot of people in the orbit, whether it's the direct orbit of Trump and his political or business sphere, or it's the pundit sphere, okay, or the support, legal or logistics support sphere, a lot of these people are sensing the end is nigh. One way or another, Trump is going to go. He's either going to go because he's old, or he's going to go down in a big giant ball of flames. Okay. So some of them are thinking forward to what the rest of their life is going to be like. If you're a 40-year-old attorney who went to a decent law school, clerked at a decent law firm, You got 20, 30 years to go in your law career. You want to go down with this crew of assholes? Like, yeah, I'm saying it's self-preservation, which isn't the reason you should be doing the reaction they did. But yes, so self-preservation has a lot to do with it. So do they wake up and decide to be normal human beings with ethics and morals and a soul? I'm not saying that. Especially not on OAN. But what I am saying is realization happened. There was a trigger in a moment of time where the absolute firewall of Trumpianism packet got through. Okay. There's types of packets like I've been working with firewalls for since the 90s. I get about 30 years of experience with firewalls, um, and security ruled routers and all that kind of stuff. Certain things that make it through that aren't auto denied on the outside on the WAN, the wide area network side of your firewall. Some packets get through and you're like, oh, okay, that's not good, but it's not a real problem. Okay. Some packets that make it through, you go, oh shit, what is this doing on my local area network? Um, it was one of that realization levels for like one of the long-term commentators on Fox News. They just saw it was like, oh shit, this is the thing where people are going to start behaving differently in our own audience. Okay. Because I'll tie it to another thing. Did you see the preacher, the Catholic preacher, the padre, go absolutely mental, nose to nose with an ICE agent in front of his church? And I was like, oh, guys, if ICE puts their hands on a padre, you're going to have Irish and Italian riots, and probably a few Latino riots too. Okay. This preacher went nose to nose and screaming in this ICE agent. Well, don't make it worse, sir. Make it worse. You're in here and you motherfuckers don't have any badges or ID. You don't have a warrant. You are not doing this here today. And he is screaming at the top of their lungs in this guy's face. Okay. And I'm just sitting there watching that going, oh, don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. There's a thing, even as an atheist, I know there's a thing about sanctuary. Okay. It comes from common law. We had a chapel on the other side of the highway. It was built in the 50s. So it was kind of like that mid-century architecture. And it was really cool. I think it wasn't non-denominational, but it was like universalist. It was kind of a groovy sect. And one night I'm working beat three, beep, beep, beep. I'm quiet all night. What the hell's going on? It's an evening mass. It's like 8 o'clock at night. And yeah, we have an intruder causing a disruption at church at this location. And I'm like, I know the padre over there. What the hell? That's a really groovy church in our town. What possibly could be the problem? I get over there and there's a guy disrupting mass. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is one of these trespasses where I don't need him to arrest you, the manager or the owner of the property. I can effect arrest from you. And if you cause enough of a distortion, I can this to be filed as a felony. You have no right to disrupt an assembly, mass, or gathering or congregation that is specifically against the law of this state. Now, either you leave this church and you stop interrupting this congregation, this assembly, or you're under arrest. Okay. You do not disrupt services. Oh, and by the way, you do not disrupt a funeral procession. Oh, I did that. I actually cuffed a guy over that. Misdemeanor. Interrupted a funeral procession. Nope. Good decorum and good society and good manners say you don't do that shit. Okay. I arrested him, put handcuffs on him, put him in the back of the car, and I towed his car. Don't cut off people in a funeral procession. And the funeral procession was marked, including civilian traffic um, guards with the yellow vest and the yellow blinky lights to let you know the funeral procession is coming. And it was a big one. I mean, it was like 90 cars. Guy was obviously popular. So it's that decorum level I'm talking about that they at least internally in their head go, oh shit, you know, the old Journey song, "The Party's Over." The party's over. That thing was ringing in their head, and at least a couple of them. They're like, ah, this could be the thing. It's one thing, and I'm not saying like Rob Reiner was untouchable. I mean, I did love the guy. I loved him when he was on All of the Family, as Meathead. I think Meathead's one of the best characters that was ever on TV, and he acted it tremendously well. This is Spinal Tap. I've seen that movie so many times I can't count. It was a barracks movie when I was in West Germany. We loved that movie. I think we wore out 2 VHSs of it. Um, I think anybody who can, jump from movie to movie, like A Few Good Men to Stand By Me to This Is Spinal Tap, uh, uh, that's pretty incredible. And I'm not saying Rob Reiner is untouchable, but I am saying is, you know what? There's certain people you shouldn't try to use as a political foil. Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, okay, Rob Reiner. He's quite beloved. And even if you don't appreciate his politics, I know you appreciate his movies. Okay, because I know A Few Good Men was one hell of a popular movie in the military crowd. It was like the legal version of Top Gun. And oh, by did everybody go mental. Even the army troops, across the river in Mainz. Wiesbaden had the air base, but yeah, when Top Gun hit the VHS rental places, people went absolutely mental. It's such a popular movie. Um, and the reason I'm bringing up a movie is another analogy where I could answer, and I love here about rethinking. Um, have any of you seen the movie A Bridge Too Far that stars everybody that was cool? Uh, Robert Redford, Sean Connery, um, the list goes on and on and on. Michael Caine. Um, it's about the Operation Market Garden in World War II, where we were going to multi-drop troops from where we were all the way up the road to Nijmegen, in Holland, and we were going to try to sweep through and block the Germans off, so that everybody, when we took Nijmegen, everybody just takes a huge turn and we head toward the Rhine and drive the German army back. It didn't go so well. The British contingent, parachute regiment that took, the bridge at Arnhem, ended up getting its ass kicked and having to surrender. Okay, that's why we have the saying today: "A bridge too far." We tried to take a series of bridges. We took every bridge except the last one. I mean, including rebuilding several bridges that the Germans blew up before we could take them. Like one of the funniest scenes, I laugh every time I see it. It's Elliot Gould playing one of the colonels in one of the forward forces, and they're just hitting their target bridge, and the Germans mortar the shit out of it. And he's like, "Oh shit, get on the radio, tell the British to get their Bailey bridges up to the front of their column because we're gonna fucking need them." So yeah, even when we had to rebuild bridges, we couldn't make it to the last bridge before the German armor got there and kicked the parachute regiment's ass. So that's what I think with the Rob Reiner tweet or truth or whatever the fuck you call it there. And then the follow up mania, just the angry mental case, you know, just his need to shit on people is unbelievable. It's either, and everything in his head is black and white. There's no gray area in his head. Like this is a guy who does not understand the function of a probability. Like last year I was talking about statistics. Yeah, probabilities is a key thing. You're running a machine learning thing and your R2 comes up like 80%, your algorithm sucks. Do better. You have to keep retesting till you get that number up. I don't think he understands like anything other than black and white, 0 or 1, in a horrible, horrible way. So yeah, his reaction, I think, was in a lot of these people's mind that suddenly at least changed their tune minimally. Um, they're seeing it as a bridge too far. And who they're seeing it a bridge too far with is the general electorate, the active voters in America. Because the preachers are starting to speak out. The rabbis are starting to speak out, including the conservative ones. So the attachment to the religious voter that Trump enjoyed is not going to be enjoyed by the next midterms. JD Vance's run, by the way, he's already running for president. Erica Kurt's already endorsing him. This shit's so freaky incestual. I don't know where to go. But yeah, that's what I think is happening. I think it's a bridge too far scenario in their head. They know they're about to get their heads handed to them in the midterms, and they probably won't even make the midterms at the pace they're going. Okay, because when Culia, I think his name is, the Texas Democrat, and his wife both got pinched for bribery. Let's talk about that. The reason dear leader gave him a pardon because he thought he would flip parties and give another vote to Trump in the House. That didn't happen. Now, more people, including the crypto queen, are bailing. So he may not even make the midterms at this pace. And something I wanted to talk about, and I'll preface this before I start talking about what Mitt Romney did in his op-ed, is when Obama ran for office the first time, and I like to give a little jab to my capital L liberal or progressive friends, because they see me as this old time military guy who's probably very Republican. And I tell them, yeah, I used to be an Ike Republican, sure. Okay. No, I'm a little young to be an actual Eisenhower supporter. I realize that, but his philosophy and his leadership style is what I thought was a pinnacle for the Republican Party. Build a nation, protect the nation, that sort of stuff. Today, I'm more like a groovy libertarian. And my wife and I decided to heavily support Obama, like giving him lots of money, as much. This is what I poke fun at with my friends. I'm like, how much did you give to Obama? And they'll say like, oh, I gave him $50 or $100. And I go, I gave him so much money, I had to fill out forms. And they're like, what? Because I thought Obama would take a real shot at fixing healthcare and possibly massively curtailing the drug war. And neither happened. Okay. And I know Romney ran against Obama. But like post Obama and my disappointment, I said that if Mitt Romney and like Christine Todd Whitman, former EPA administrator and New Jersey governor, if they would have to do a small C conservative independent ticket for president against Trump, my wife and I would be voting the Romney ticket for sure. For sure. Now, this may have surprised a lot of people, but Romney said some very, very smart things when he was in the Senate. And he was one of the very few people that did not take his eye off the real ball, the real threat. And that's always been Russia. Okay. Romney was the one pounding his fist in the committee hearings going, you guys listening to yourselves? And in the end, he was right. We were worried about goat herders. He was worried about Russia reestablishing the Iron Curtain. And Romney was correct. That's what Ukraine is about. It's the start of the rebuild of the Iron Curtain. If you've been watching me long enough, you know my West Germany background and family connections to East Germany, all that. Okay. The real problem is the nation state with nuclear weapons who wants to take nations hostage as a buffer zone to Mother Russia. Because that's all the Iron Curtain was. It was just a buffer zone. Um, so the recent news with Mitt Romney, now he's back in Utah, is he just wrote an op-ed that stunned everybody. Take the limit off Social Security. A dollar is a dollar. That's my tax solution for Social Security. Remember I told you the story the other day? Elon Musk gets $53 billion. Judge shot it down, but let's say hypothetically he did get it. His taxes for FICA would have stopped at $167,000 out of 53 billion. Okay. Mitt Romney just called that out. He said, I'm slightly paraphrasing only. You have working adults just getting out of college subsidizing multi-billionaires sitting on a $300 million yacht. Okay. If AOC would have said that, they would have gone nuts on her. She probably already has, by the way. Yeah, she's feisty. And I do like her more the more she goes toward the center line. I could see her being in Congress for a long time if she can get a big win or be part of a big win. But Romney came out and was like, no, start taxing these people. Start taxing the ultra wealthy. You cannot have impoverished seniors and poor college graduates. That's poor graduates there, and the seniors are both are the ones that are the welfare mechanism to the ultra wealthy. Start taxing them. And I'm like, hell yes. Hell yes, and thank you from the back of the room. Now, what to get that actually done? Because you'd have to raise multiple things. And Romney said, tax people like me, because he's worth like $100 million, $200 million, something like that. I mean, he's wealthy. He's wealthy. He's not rich. He's wealthy. Okay. And he's saying, tax me, tax my friends. Definitely tax Musk and Bezos and Ellison. And let's start paying for things instead of putting them on the credit card. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Now, the mechanism I may debate, but the fact we have now a stalwart Republican and a capital C conservative coming to Jesus with the Eisenhower solution. What was the marginal rate under Eisenhower? Now, I'm not saying we need to go back to this level. I'm just saying, what was the marginal rate under Eisenhower? 90%. Okay. It's 1, 2, or 3 actual rate for the ultra wealthy right now. Oh, I got it off of it's one of the stores. I'll post the link. I have to look at my Amazon box. He's asking about my hat. Um my former Army or Marine Corps. I was a U.S. Army sergeant, and I worked MP, MPI, and had 2 stints with CID, one in West Germany and one in the West Coast of California, working major crimes, drug trafficking, gun running, international stuff, you name it. Worked with the Polizei, Interpol, every 3-letter agency in America I've worked with. Did that from 84 to 89, late 89. The Cold War days in most of my job was either PRP level stuff, guarding stuff with a high clearance, especially shipments in Europe, VIP guard, and then a bunch of undercover work, 3 years undercover work, and about 2 more years as a detective in MPI. So I'll look at that. I'll look at my shopping cart and try to get you where I got this. It's actually a good quality one because I had an older one. It fell apart in like 2 years. This is actually a well-made cap. It was like $25, but it's actually pretty nice. Um, oh, and what was interesting about Romney's uh oh yeah, and I was I was also on a DEA task force for a year and a half. Plus I'm a retired civilian cop. So that's the whole story. I watched Bohemian Rhapsody on Blu-ray the other night. I finally ordered it from Amazon. I hadn't seen it yet. And it came with a digital code, so I got to put it in my digital library too. I always love the combined packs. Um, wow, did that movie hit me hard? It's been years since I cried at a movie. That movie took me back to one of the coolest events. One, I'm a massive Queen fan. I think Queen is one of the best nonconformist rock bands to have ever existed. They're not prog, they're not straight rock, but they're definitely rock and roll. They're just all over the place, and I loved every freaking moment of it. Um, each one of the persons in the band, it's like Van Halen or Zeppelin or Rush. There's everybody in the band is like one of the best people you could have at that position or role in your band. It's just incredibly an awesome band. Been a fan since high school. You know, grew up listening to the vinyl album Bohemian Rhapsody and the home stereo, my family home back in New England. And when it came out in the 70s, my mom was really into opera, but then she heard my sister play Bohemian Rhapsody and she got really pissed because that was fake opera and she got all upset about it. But we loved it. um, and the hits were immediate from that album. I mean, I couldn't believe how FM radio, it was all AOR back then, album oriented rock. How the radios just massively picked up that album. And of course, you know, the operatic classic track was, played nonstop for a decade, Um, but the Live Aid part of it, um, I still remember us. One of the guys in my unit had a German wife. Her parents had a big house with a huge backyard, little mini ranch farm, whatever you want to call it, with a big shed out back. And we set up a barbecue and beer kegs and set up the little tiny 13-inch Sony color TV. And we all watched Live Aid while it streamed, while it was probably being broadcasted. We were part of the live audience. Um, and it's got to be one of the biggest events I've ever seen in my life and been part of my life. And just remembering how cool Live Aid was and how people reacted. I mean, and I know the movie kind of indicates that it was the Queen performance that got the phone lines bum rushed. So many people were calling, they couldn't get through. They were donating so much money because it was a charity blowout. I mean, they raised so much freaking money from all over the world. And it was over 1 billion people watching live broadcast, which was amazing for the day. It was beyond the Olympic opening ceremony level of viewership. It was incredible. And us just rocking out to every band because everybody cool was there. Everybody that was somebody was there. But what made the phone lines melt down? Once again, when you want truth to power, you got to go back to David Bowie. David Bowie, if you remember, was the guy who called out MTV in the early days and why they didn't play any black people's music on TV. And when the host said, well, we got to play to the Midwest too, David Bowie gave him a death stare like, what the fuck are you talking about? Some of the biggest bands in the UK and America now are black bands, but you don't play any of it. Okay. So he was calling out MTV for basically having a bleached playlist. Okay. When they were planning Live Aid, this comes from Bob Geldof himself in an interview. The production team and everything were having to sit down with David Bowie because they had to figure out a set list, the exact amount of time, because this is all going to be live broadcasted. They got to fit in all the breaks and everything. So they're going to map this out like, they're architects building a building. The show is huge. The schedule is even bigger. They had to sit everybody down and get exactly what's going to happen. So they're there at the table with David Bowie, and Geldof goes, "Oh, I just got this. Let me turn this on." And it was the Canadian Broadcasting News report about how bad the famine had gotten. Okay. So David Bowie goes, "We got to play that." And the producer's like, "What?" And he goes, "We have to play that when I'm on stage." And the producer goes, David, all due respect." He's like, "No, the BBC will cut it off. We'll literally be silent on the international feeds." And he's going, "I don't care. I am not performing unless that video is part of my performance." Okay. So he played his first track and he just rushed to the microphone before they could set up for the next song. And he goes, and he points at the board, and the board played the news report. The crowd went from people dancing and girls riding guys' shoulders and everybody cheering and everything to people literally standing there somber, some people crying. That's how brutal this news report was. Then Bowie launched into Heroes. We can be heroes just for one day. That's what melted down the phone lines. The whole world responded. Like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it again. It was a great moment in history. And some of the performers and musicians and artists that I just grew up absolutely loving, they were the forefront of that. I was a massive Bowie fan. Still am a massive Bowie fan of his music. Unfortunately, he's gone. Um, but yeah, I mean, whether it was early days Bowie or Let's Dance with Nile Rodgers and Stevie Ray Vaughan, more of a alt pop, even disco influence, dance R&B influenced album. I loved everything Bowie did from A to Z. But yeah, reliving that through the movie, I thought the movie was great. I think it was well and tastefully done. Um, um, and yeah, I did get sad because I was a huge Freddie Mercury fan. I did not realize he was so sick at Live Aid. I know he had already known he had I think whatever stage of AIDS. It was no longer just an HIV infection. He had developed AIDS. I knew he had AIDS, but I did not know he was like stage 4. And he still performed and he still killed it. And yeah, it made me pretty emotional because a lot of memories. I was literally picturing the guys and the gals in the backyard in West Germany. One of the outside villages. There's vineyards, on the other side of the road. Um, we're cooking food, we're drinking beer, we're having a blast. We're young, dumb, carefree, and in a remote way, we were part of one of the biggest events of modern times. I just thought that was cool. I just thought remembering it all was cool. But yeah, it did make me emotional because um, one of the things I've had trouble with, especially with like all the criminality and letting all these, I mean, horribly grotesque criminals just go. I mean, this pardon thing is just a mess. It is so corrupt, so stupid, not even following the purposes of grace. He's just abusing the system for political power and releasing some of the most heinous criminals who actually should be in prison. Like, I've thought several times, and actually, a friend had to talk me down one day. We're on Zoom. We actually work together. We've been friends for like 26, 27 years. Um, I'm like, why did I spend the first 14 years of my adult life doing this crazy shit I did? Okay. If the outcome is we get gang members running the country. And I've asked myself several times, did I waste a big part of my life? Instead of doing 14 years in the military and civilian policing, I could have started in tech earlier. Okay, because trust me, you make a lot more money in tech than you do in the military or being a cop. Well, maybe not today. They get paid like crazy here. Like I know they make more money than junior programmers coming fresh into the company with a bachelor's degree. Like a rookie on FTO is making more money by about $25,000. But back in my day, that wasn't true. Tech blew away what you made in law enforcement. Um, so yeah, would if these outcomes are the outcomes that have been occurring, and we've seen the political system and the corporate system seems to be routinely more criminal as time goes forward. What did I do? What was I doing? I've broken out of that cycle because I'm glad I was in a couple of situations I was in. It was worth being there. And it may be for a situation is a little different than you may be thinking. The the night I stopped this woman, she comes out of the grocery store parking lot. It's a divided boulevard. She comes out the wrong way, goes slightly the wrong way, hits the center divide, does the big jump of the center divide, and starts driving with sparks and bumper parts flying off down the right side of the correct direction, traffic direction of the road. So I get to the turnout and I spin around and I go lights and sirens and woo, chase her down. Boom. Okay, pull her over. And I walk up and it's this little petite girl. She's not more than, oh, maybe 22, 23 years old. So she's a young gal and she's visibly upset. And I'm like, oh, okay. What happened back there? Oh, I wasn't thinking. And she just blurts out. She goes, I just was in the grocery store buying razor blades and I'm driving to the beach to kill myself. Okay. So, ma'am, why don't you turn the car off? Immediately call for another car. I'm probably going to be transporting somebody to the hospital. And I said, ma'am, and I didn't want her to go in her purse because she just said razor blades, and I don't want to be wrestling some razor blades out of a woman's hand. So I go, ma'am, can you just step out of the car for me? You just stick up your seatbelt, just stand up. I just want to talk to you, make sure you're okay, whatever. And so we start talking in a conversation, and I'm realizing that I have a critically depressed person in front of me. If I wasn't there, she'd have probably made it to the beach and she would have probably slit her wrists and killed herself. Instead, I got into a conversation with her. My backup, Jeff, he's gone now, but my Jeff backed me up. And I just told her, ma'am, I'm going to take you to the hospital. I think you need to talk to a doctor. Okay. Under California law, under 5150, I can legally take you into custody and take you to a hospital and have you psychologically evaluated. Okay. Because I think if I let you go, you will hurt yourself. And then she says, yeah, I probably will. Okay. I took her to the hospital. Doctor talked to her. A lot of times, 5150s get bounced. They don't process them, but they processed her. She was in a severe episodic depression state. I was glad I was there. That was worth it. So when I see all these troubles and thinking like, should I have been doing something different? Even though I'm really mad, a criminal organization. Go look at that JSON table I put up in notes. So all the connections in this sphere. We have it's like Tony Soprano got elected president and the Goombas are running the system. And I'm very serious. I'm not throwing rocks. I'm not being hyperbolic when I said this is a street gang running the country. They're acting actually like a street gang with street gang motivations and street gang rules. Yes, there are rules on the streets. You break those rules. If any of you watch The Wire, you know what I'm talking about. There are rules. You break those rules, you will get hurt. Just like in prison. There's rules in prison that aren't the warden's rules. You must follow those rules or you will get hurt. One of those rules is don't be a pedophile. Oddly, prisoners are better policing and adjudicating pedophiles than our government is, because our government is filled currently with rapists and pedophiles and other crooks galore. There's literally a lifetime felon that's working at the White House right now. But there's a couple of times where I was like, I look back and I go, yeah, it was worth being there. Would I have been better off? I'm doing pretty good, but would I be even better off if I started in tech 10 years earlier after going to community college and learning how to code? I already coded on like Commodore 64s and TRS-80s my friends had, or the one I eventually got. But got some at least basic formal training and got into business. Yeah, I'd gotten faster, bigger, better, faster. Earlier I got into the wave of tech. To put me in there, at least a decade earlier. But in the end, I take a deep breath, realize, yeah, there was a duty to do. And it's also the reason why we have to think forward. The wheels are coming off the MAGA cart. That's obvious at this point. Okay. Now, how much tragedy we have to go through while it creams down the hill, that's TBD. That's TBD. It's to be determined. But I put a Republican controlled Senate and House at about 10% in the midterms. Because you're also having state level problems on the MAGA side. And that's showing up in the special elections. So even though I have my frustrations and I had my moments of doubt, I just keep reminding myself that, yeah, this is all. I have kids. I hope they have kids one day. And it's not just my kids; it's your kids too. It's our grandkids and so on. We should be leaving them a better place. And the if we get to frickin' work and we listen to sage advice, like Mitt's saying, yeah, we need to raise taxes on rich and wealthy people. We need to start paying for things, not borrowing for things. We need to start taking care of people, not taking care of assets. That was the whole bank bailout problem. We took care of assets. We didn't take care of people. We didn't take care of families. But I know if I had put a bet on the country that could make it, if we just spent a few minutes getting our head out of our ass, America would be at the top of the list. Because the future of the 21st century, especially if you listen to Zihan and a couple of the other geostrategists, the future isn't Russia or China. The future is North America. It's the North American trading bloc: Canada, United States, Mexico. It's France and India. That's the 21st century future. Okay. That's why it's so important that we fix this shit. We look for that light at the end of the tunnel, and then we get real people to offer real solutions. Okay. To the problems we've been dealing with, again, since Reagan. None of this happened overnight. But fixing it can be quick and easy with the right people. If you don't actually have a replacement for the healthcare plan that even I see massive flaws in, but it's the only thing we've got. If you have nothing to replace it with, then you just, out of common sense, you just continue the subsidies. The problem is you continue the subsidies without taxing the people that can help pay for the subsidies. And who can help pay for it? Who did Mitt Romney call out? the ultra wealthy. Okay. So yeah, it's worth working on. It's worth fighting for. It's worth moving forward. You know, if I decided to retire in Europe, whether it's a nice ranch north of Valencia or in a cool city like Bruges, um, it'll be at it. I want it to be at a choice, just because I want to travel and see more. I don't want it to be leaving the country because I'm fleeing a fucked up system. Because what are we leaving for our children and our friends and neighbors' children? So yeah, look forward on how we're going to vote, how we're going to ask the candidates the right questions. Okay. And again, vote, vote independent, at least independent minded. Okay. The parties don't matter anymore. It's the candidate quality and what they're willing to fucking fix. And I mean, really fix, not half-ass fix like Obamacare. That was a half-ass fix. It's being proven out right now. It's a half-ass fix. No other industrialized country in the West has these problems with healthcare. My other side of the family, the cousin, is a surgeon in Germany. He considers our system immoral. One of my gaming mates, one of my fellow admins back in the day, he's an actuary in Australia. He just finds us he literally called it out one night because nobody was on, so we get to talk politics on this little nights. He was like, "Yeah, you guys are morons when it comes to healthcare." And I'm an actuarial engineer. I know what I'm talking about. You guys are morons when it comes to healthcare. So it isn't about the party. No, we shouldn't be voting for Republicans because they're part and parcel of being held hostage by theocratic nationalists, accelerationists, and national socialists and corporate socialists. Okay. So let's put this system of corporate socialism to bed, get rid of it, start fixing stuff, start passing the tax code policy that makes sense, start changing the War Powers Act in our foreign policy so it makes sense. And we're going to have to prosecute some people, both officials, government officials, and some Navy personnel over what's going on in the Caribbean. I cannot even find for a stretch of the imagination how these attacks, how these strikes are legal. Because what you're telling me, when I was in the CID, we could have just walked up onto a farm. Anybody we saw, we get to blow their brains out with an M16A2, 3-round burst to the face. If I would have shot an unarmed person, or even an unarmed person that wasn't an armed person who wasn't a direct threat to me, and I shot him, yeah, I'd have been in the stockade. I don't know how you get that. I don't know how they're getting that through JAG. It must be really politically fucked up in the military right now if this passed through JAG and the Pentagon lawyers. So a lot of things screwed up, a lot of things to fix, but I think we can do it. And I think we have a change, at least a slight change in the tide, like going back to opening the eyes. Maybe not, but there definitely is a shift in the tide. Well, when you're at 90 dead and you don't have a legal reason and you don't have a war declaration, yeah, if you kill 90 people, they would call it mass murder. When Pete Hegseth do it, they call it hero worship. And somehow, dear leader is personally responsible for all this, and he deserves the credit. Like he deserved the credit for the plane being shot down, or I think it was over Syria. No, you're sitting in a very comfortable office chair. Okay, you're not the jockey sitting in the fighter seat. Guess who gets the credit? Don't be fools. So look forward is my point tonight. Be independent. Get out and vote. Run for office as an independent. Independently and critically evaluate candidates and come up with your three issues and one or two strong questions. And the questions have to be answered with a solution, or that candidate is full of shit. Because that's what's burning the Republicans in the town halls. They're non-answers. Like the one guy again starts screaming in the microphone, and the guy's going, "No, no, no!" And the sheriff tries to, "No, no, no! You can't scream at the candidate." And the whole crowd getting up in a standing ovation. Oh yeah, he can scream at the end. It's called free speech. Okay, you don't like being called out, then don't give non-answers. So know who you are dealing with. Okay, because a lot of kooks are going to try to run this cycle from every stripe. Okay, we're already seeing that in the special elections. We're seeing that here. Know your candidate, know a couple of good issues, know a couple of good questions on that issue, and know a solution has to be part of the answer. Okay. Until next time, please, I'm seriously asking, please think about it.